Well, lawmakers are working on a compromise for President Biden's Build Back Better spending plan with a self-imposed deadline of October 31st. And as they deliberate trillions of dollars worth of spending, the farm sector is keeping a close eye on opportunities for agriculture. Well, Alan Bjerga with the National Milk Producers Federation joins us now with a focus on dairy. And Alan, as always, thank you for your time here this morning. Now, if you would, tell us about the opportunities for dairy in this legislation and how do different proposals seem to affect different type of dairies?
Well, of course, legislation like this just sprawls everywhere, right? It's touching so many parts of American life. And that's why you see a lot of headlines about some of the bigger ticket items like, universal pre-K education or child tax credit or community college. But when you take a look at agriculture and some of the opportunities beyond those headlines, there's a lot of exciting stuff. In the dairy space, you see a lot of initiatives that could potentially help the industry with its net zero initiative, a goal of being carbon neutral by 2050. When you see things like the framework of the Agricultural Environmental Stewardship Act, which would create a 30% investment tax credit that covers upfront costs of nutrient separation technologies. That's the sort of thing that basically can turn manure into a source of cash flow. And that's a real opportunity for dairies. Frankly, in the case of a lot of larger dairies that are very sophisticated operations, they're ready to be part of a climate solution. But it's also helpful to have revenue streams and incentives that can come from enhancing the good stewardship work that you're already doing, along with incentives that you can create for other people in the industry to adapt these technologies as well. So you see those sorts of things. When you see the reconciliation bill, you see other measures that can also make their way through Congress once we get beyond reconciliation. Things like ways to deal with feed additives and enteric emissions that could help improve feed additives get into the dairy sector. There's just a lot of stuff in here, and there's a lot of exciting opportunity for this sector.
And one thing that we hear a lot about is climate smart agriculture. Could you tell us a bit about that and why it's so important to the dairy sector?
Yeah, climate smart sort of becomes a big part of this heading, which is the idea that agriculture is strong in its stewardship and its commitment to land and water. That's not a big surprise in farm country, but it's something that, people outside of agriculture sometimes need to be reminded of in the direction things can go. Climate smart agriculture can also be conservation smart agriculture. That's a term that people in farming know very well through NRCS and USDA conservation programs. When you take a look at a lot of the proposals in some of these initiatives you're seeing through reconciliation and elsewhere, you're seeing opportunities for climate smart agriculture to sort of revamp and modernize USDA conservation programs to really reward farmers for some of the things they do well. In dairy, that's things like sequestering carbon in soil, reducing greenhouse gas emissions. When you see funding go through these programs in things like the reconciliation bill, you see, once again, opportunities for farmers to be rewarded for good stewardship practices and to encourage further adoption.
And Alan, is there anything in this legislation that you're actually trying to ward off, though?
Well, stepped up basis, right? That's what you've heard in farm country, some of the concern about how estates are being treated in legislation. So far, we're managing to keep this out of the bill. NMPF is a leader in the agricultural community, along with a lot of other farm organizations that are making sure that estates are taxed properly and that farms are able to be passed on from generation to generation. Keep your fingers crossed. So far, it's not in the deal, and we're hoping that we can keep it out.
All right. Well, Alan, as always, thank you very much for your insight here this morning. Alan Bjerga, he's with the National Milk Producers Federation, connecting with us, of course, out of Washington. Go online to nmpf.org for more information.